So Dre and I have come up with a few things we just talked about with the swivel lock as far as differentiating what we have compared to the swivel lock. So we've talked with everybody that's been to the last 3 or 4 groups, right? So the first thing is that the swivel lock anchor is 2 pieces, right? Also, with the swivel lock anchor, you have 2 pieces of suture pushing up against the bone. So what is that going to impede? Fixation. How come?
Is there something in
So if there's suture up against the bone, what's not up against the bone?
less fixation?
The threads and the anchor. So it's a little bit less fixation, right?
So going back to the piece that Nick said about the 2 parts versus 1, you guys understand what that means or no?
Yeah, that distal eyelid.
So why is that important?
Because
You lose the one fixation. The second part doesn't even matter.
So what? Say that again?
You lose the eyelet fixation.
Well, you won't lose the eyelid fixation. I think the main point of it is, if you look at this, right, the suture goes right through the anchor and comes straight out the other side. It's one piece. If it loads up here and you remove the inserter, this thing's kind of floating around. So that gap from here to here, what's holding that tension in place? It's just kind of loose suture, right? So in theory, yes, it shouldn't slide because you have compression here, but it can migrate over time and cause that slack to come out and loosen up the tension between the cuff. Between the cuff and the anchor, right?
And that's what she's talking about, the 2 to 3 millimeter.
Exactly.
Now with this, there's no way that can happen unless the anchor comes out because it's literally fixated right there and
At the
right
disconnect.
there. Do you agree with that as a potential threat for arthritis?
Yeah, I think I'd never heard that before. So I think it's going to catch a lot of guys off guard.
Yeah.
The first thing they're going to say back is they're going to say, well, swivel locks may be used with tape anyways. And the tape, is really actually putting more material in the hole, so it's increasing fixation.
Right.
So that's what they're going to come back. I've never heard the 2-part. It's going to catch guys off guard.
Yeah.
But don't some of them educate their docs is that it's supposed to come together? Isn't that?
And so theoretically, think about that for a second.
I
yes,
understand
they
that
do
it's
educate
wrong,
them.
but
As
that's what
it's
they're
supposed
saying.
to compress. Yes, it comes together. Great, but you're punching a hole that's this long, right? This long, and then you're putting in the anchor with the distal eyelet here, and then you're removing. It's supposed to come together. So what's keeping it from falling from here back to this point? There's nothing there. It's going to naturally move back. It's not like it compresses all the way to the tip of it and it comes together. That's not the way it works. So there's going to be a gap there, no matter what. Another problem with the swivel lock versus the helix nonless. You guys tell me, what do you think?
Has anybody tried to sell competitively against it yet?
And failed.
I mean, I've sold one doctor on it, but his reaction was, I haven't had any problems with the swivel lock, and why fix something that's not broken?
Okay. What year car does he drive? Does he still drive a 1912 Ford because it works, or does he upgrade his car every couple of years because there's new technology and better cars?
He's not driving 1974
Yeah, it
Benz
works.
anymore, guaranteed.
But I got advantages to make it work better, and this is not broke either. So I'm just increasing your efficiency. That's all I'm doing.
So it increases efficiency in the operating room.
I'm just upgrading you on a product that works.
When I said to Corso, especially because he's a part owner of the surgery center, Doc, less time in the operating room is going to be a value to you. It's $68 a minute, right? In the operating room? $68 a minute. If I can cut off 10, 15, 20 minutes out of your case because it's a lot more easier to insert, would that be a value to you? Especially when they own a place. What are you going to do? You can use less water, right? The case is faster. So you're definitely saving them money in other areas. So, Doc, you know what? You're right. You have been doing something for the last 10 years, 6 years, out of your residency. Whatever it may be to them. But you know what, Doc? We have something brand new and innovative, and I'm coming to you today with it for that reason. I've seen a lot of other doctors in the area who use this product, who went from the product that you're using now, and they've seen a more efficient, better patient outcomes, and their overall cases are getting better and better. Their skills are getting better and better because we're able to provide that to them. Would you be objecting? Would you object to even just giving it a shot, or could I set you up with a sawbone to even try it? It's an easy conversation to have. Now listen, it's true. Just like Dre said, and you think it's stupid, it's a dumb analogy. He's not driving. If he drives a Benz, which most of them do, he's not driving that 74 Benz anymore when he got out of his residency, or even his 91 Benz when he got out of his residency. He's not driving that car no more. Why? Because there's advancements. You make advancements, and they make advancements in the medical field every single day. They're not still doing the things they were doing back in the day, Doc. They went from a saw to a drill for a reason, you know? So that's why that's what you bring. You got to have a story. You have to be able to come to them with that type of story. And you're bringing them a J&J story.
Have you had any issues with selling against the footprint?
No, it was just this one doctor. He tried it a couple times, and he uses all my tech anyway. So,
Okay, so you don't have that much footprint. Most of it is swivel lock, or do you guys have any other companies that you compete against? You have a lot of ArthroCare, don't you? Don't you have? I thought you had Opus users in your area.
None?
No, I mean, swivel. It's just swivel lock.
All
I mean,
swivel.
those. I mean, has anybody had any
There's
challenges
some.
while using the
There is
anchor?
one doctor. He's a Tournier consultant. Yeah, he has.
Piton's a good anchor. It's hard to compete against it, but they don't have any absorbable. They don't have any plastic. They only have metal.
All right, so just quickly, Zach is on the front lines, right? Zach works in the busiest sports medicine hospital in the world. He's got some good traction, him and Mike, right now with the HAK. So Zach gave us a couple of tips, so I'm going to read them to you right now so you just have a good idea. So he said, when tensioning, docking the ring is temporary. You know, when you dock those threads in the ring, that's just temporary. If you don't release those threads, you're gonna cheese grate the end of the anchor, right? So that makes sense. B, if the nose of the anchor is all the way down in the thread into the thread, it makes it too hard to tension. Does everybody understand what that means? If the nose of the anchor is all the way down to the thread, you're not gonna be able to tension, not gonna be able to move it, right? Then he says get initial tension before dunking, right? So this is something that Dre and I were talking about with the rest of the group. Grab tension. Don't. If they don't have to, don't use the ring. Don't teach them to use the ring. Grab the tension, go past point, fly, put dock, let go, and turn. It's that easy. The tensioning one by one, you're going to get the same exact type of tensioning by holding all four, docking. Once you start twisting, you're going to see that cuff come over. When they're tensioning one by one, they're watching the cuff, right? Inch up, inch up, inch up. When you do it with all four, and then just start twisting that anchor down in, you're going to see it just pull it all up at once instead of one by one by one by one.
So you do pass point?
Pass
I
point.
thought you had
No, we use the same exact technique that the original crappy Helix Nautilus used, but with this anchor. Pass point, dock it in.
Dock it in.
It makes their life so much easier.
And the tension is beautiful.
Now, the great thing about this is you have the option of doing it one way or the other. From my experience and Nick's experience, passing point and docking it in works 99% of the time.
I haven't had one problem.
And if somebody is opposed to it, just say, listen, let's try this first, and then we reinforce it your way. And they're going to see that they're going to have very little give when they're tensioning their way after they pass point. They're going to be like, why am I even doing this? Let me just pass point every time.
Another big thing, just as far as insertion from Zach, he said no malleting is a big benefit over swiveling. Not having to mallet the anchor in, right? You're not banging on the anchor. Also, he said be sure that the first thread is engaged before you screw. That's pretty simple. I think we all know that, right? And then he said they have to drop the suture after they get the first thread in. Another one we all know, right? Simple. What happens if we don't drop the suture? You're going to pop the thing out. It's going to be trampoline effect. If you don't drop that suture, you're going to be twisting and against yourself.
Don't forget,
No?
dude, I mean, let's go back to the basic selling point of Helix against Arthrex to begin with. The thread patterns. You know, I mean, that's
Simple.
pretty simple, man. It's if any doctor has any common sense, has used any sort of fixation type of screw on a plate or on a fracture, there's cortical screws and there's cancellous screws. They all look like this or like that. We combine them to make one anchor. Why? Because it gets cancellous and cortical fixation. You can't have one pitch pattern for both bones. That's not the way it works. Or else every Synthes would make that for all their screws. That's not the way it works. So we optimized a sports medicine anchor to fixate in cancellous and cortical bones.
Big
That's
sell.
huge, man.
Big sell.
At
Big
the end of the
sell.
day, you got to tell them, look, guys, is there really a difference between one screw and another? You can use anything you want. Here's why this one's a little bit better. That's all it really comes down to. Is it game changer? No, man. Everybody, it's a novice anchor.
We all
Here's
know what
why
it
it's
really
better.
comes down to, guys. Being around them, constantly talking to them, even if it's not about our product, becoming friends with them, and then starting to ask them for advice. Are we really going to sell them and walk up to them right in the middle of the thing and try to sell them our anchor? No. Doc, I want to ask your advice. I know you've been doing shoulders for 4 or 5 years. We have this anchor. Can you take a look at it? This anchor is something new that we have. J&J came out with it. It still has our helix, our great helix thread pattern with the cancellous and the cortical bone. But Doc, it's not this. We have a certain stay suture that you can use at the end if you have a dog gear, and we can use it. Just let me know what you think. If you don't want to try it right now on a patient, if you don't mind, can I bring you a sawbone just so you can give me your feedback? Your feedback is going to help me greatly. If you're asking for help and you're just asking for advice, you're a hell of a lot less abrasive, right? You're a hell of a lot less abrasive than you would be if you're And some of these people, some of these reps are just idiots. I was in the lounge the other day with this Opus guy. He's got the freaking iPad. He's pointing and he's talking. I'm like, come on, dude. You really think you're gonna sell somebody like that? You're not. Especially when he's in the lounge in between cases. You think he wants to be sold right now? You're selling at the wrong time. It might be a good opportunity to strike a conversation with the guy, get to know him, maybe find out what he uses, what he likes about what he uses, and then at a later point, or maybe later in the day. Doc, remember you just told me before we were in the lounge, you like this, and this? I actually have something that might be able to help you with that. Would you take a look later? Would you mind? Can I give you a look?
I think asking them when they're free for a minute, so I can go over. I think.
Exactly. Doc, you have seconds.
Respect their time.
Another thing, guys, is when you're talking to them, find out what they like about it, because no matter what what lateral row anchor they're using, we have something to accommodate. You name a product out there, we have something that we can do with this that competes with that. I like this, great, we could do this. I like this, great, we could do that. Here's what we can also do. This is a pretty versatile anchor. You find any company out there, there's really not much that they can compete against us with.
The only thing that I wouldn't disagree, but we haven't perfected it is the speed bridge.
Well, that's not the anchor though. That's a technique with other products that are associated with it, right? That's not this lateral row anchor. Yes, it's not great with fiber tape. It's not. Okay.
No, I think no.
How can we compete against fiber tape though? We have a stay stitch. If we can incorporate that and make this anchor triple loaded, that kind of competes with fiber tape if you're thinking about it, because you're not as bulky and you're getting multiple points of fixation on the tissue. So you're still getting a lot of sutures covering it like a web, rather than a couple ones like this.
And you have a PDS component.
Yeah. Well, not only that, if you utilize the PDS beforehand, shuttling the stay
No, I'm
stitch.
saying PDS component.
No, I know, on the ortho cord, yeah. I mean, there's a million reasons why you can combat it. Some people are going to be stubborn as hell about it. Okay, not everybody's going to be sold on every product, but you can pick off the majority with this.